Hey, and welcome to Dicejunkies, and this is a book review on the Starfinder core rulebook. We picked this up about a week or so ago, and just wanted to go over some of the book, let you know what we thought. We still haven't had the opportunity to actually play a session yet, so this review is strictly on the book,
Content.
and we'll probably go over mostly character creation, stuff like that. A lot of the tech and starships. We'll probably cover that on another episode, so stay tuned for that. But here we go. Let's look at our first look at Starfinder, a core rulebook.
Well, first of all, just to go over what it is, basically Starfinder is a sci-fi space opera style setting that was created by the people that did Pathfinder. Important note, the rules are different from this. This is not exactly Pathfinder. It's similar,
this
but
is a whole new core rulebook.
yeah, this is a whole new core set of rule book. So this isn't, I shouldn't say it's as much just a setting, it's another rule set as well. I found it to be a little refreshing and interesting. I mean, they've got their own take on it. There were some similarities to some other systems, but I'll go over that a little bit later. But I would say that definitely this is a good product. We want to get you know what you got, what to expect.
Well, with it being Pazio, they did this a lot like they have the Pathfinder core rulebook, where you have all the stuff you need in one book to get started. For the GM and for the players. It's all one 500-600 page book.
Well, they're always good at giving you a good value for your purchase. You don't have to buy 3 books to get started.
Yeah, 521 pages of content here. And
playable, like you say, from the purchase.
The only thing you may want more would be the bestiary, which won't come out for another couple months or another month or so. But starting off, you have your overview, which sort of lets you know what the book's about, how the slight differences from Pathfinder to this. It talks about how they do armor class and stuff. But most of it is something you can just skim through if you've already played most RPGs. The biggest difference, I guess, would be the armor class, being that this uses a 2-type armor class.
Kinetic armor class and energy armor class. With energy armor class effectively being touch AC.
Sort of.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the transfer rules, they said just use the touch AC for the energy. So, beyond that, the hit point system changed a lot. Now, you have 2 sources of hit points. You have stamina and hit points. Your stamina points recover faster, and you lose all your stamina points before you start losing hit points. For people out there that played a lot of D20 like me, you're familiar with this system in the form of Vitality. Other systems usually use Vitality and hit points. It's essentially the almost exact same thing. Or for Palladium players, SDC and hit points.
Yeah.
Which makes you a little tankier. Makes you a decent bit tankier for taking hits. So you don't have to worry about pumping out the damage as much. And they kind of needed that, because one thing about Pathfinder is damage output versus hit points has always been a bit off. Most players can deal their own hit point total in like 1 or 2 rounds, which means fights tend to be short. This seems to have been designed to try to make the fights less longer, though its damage output climbs fast too in this one.
Equipment brings mostly a lot of your your high damage output, where it looks like they lowered a lot of the stats on the characters to sort of compensate for the power level of the equipment.
That is an interesting thing to bring up. Good job. I didn't even think of that until now. The damage comes from equipment. This is like a sci-fi setting. Yeah, you're level 15. That's nice. You're still not going to be you're still not going to do as much damage as a guy with an autocannon and you got a pistol.
Yeah.
Like, you've got a little bit of an advantage, but you don't have the right equipment for the job, you're going down.
Yeah. Obviously, unless you're in some of the more, magical-based characters. But even those, some of those are even still technology-based.
They reined in the magic a good bit, but I was going to wait till we got up to class to get into that.
So we've got character creation, and this is something I've always loved, and they held it up, and I think they actually probably did almost a better job on this than the Pazio book in organizing the rule set. It is really organized into sections. The only thing right off the bat on the organization is the Pathfinder Legacy. I'm not sure why they put the elves and the dwarves and the stuff races in the back.
Almost like they're not supposed to be in the setting.
Yeah, almost like they're not supposed to be in the setting, but then when you read the setting, they're in the setting. So it's just like, why don't you just go ahead and throw them up here with the other races? You have humans up there with the other races.
Because honestly, I thought they weren't in it at first.
I
had to get to the back of the book to realize that they threw all the Galarian races in the back almost as an agenda.
Even when I saw the Galarian races in the back, and I was like, well, are they not in the setting? I guess they're not in the setting.
But then when you read them, they go like, oh yeah, but they don't mention them that much prior to that. But basically, the class build is interesting in this because you have two parts to it. You have a theme and a class.
Yeah. So with character creation, of course, you got your races, and like I said, you'll want to check the back for the
rest of your races.
Fantasy races outside the races section. Now, like I said, that's the only part of the organization of the book that just sort of made me scratch my head. But as far as new races, which some of these races aren't necessarily new, androids are actually in Pathfinder. They're just
Iron Gods. The Iron Guards actually has nearly all of these races in it. But we'll get into that. I'm going to wait for that for the end because there's a big comparison between this and Iron Gods I got to go over.
But they're very rare in Pathfinder these races.
Especially outside of that campaign.
But you have androids, humans, Kasathas.
Four-armed desert nomads, kind of a very meditative race.
Then we have the Lashantas.
Kind of like space elves. They're really attractive. They're really popular with other races. They have a weird caste system where, one part of their caste is really physically strong, the other one's really cute and, intelligent.
They have antennae, so...
Yeah, but they keep describing them as everybody thinks they're sexy, so I guess they're the Asari of the setting.
Picking up, what was, in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, they have the little... girl, the new girl.
Oh yeah, Mantis. Yeah,
Mantis.
They look kind of like Mantis, except that instead of being constantly told how unattractive they are, people like them, and that's not all of them. They have.
I know. I was just gonna. Let's see. That's.
Yeah. Apparently, this passes for sexy in Starfinder.
I mean, it's not horribly unattractive, I guess, in human terms. I mean, other than the facial antennae and some bumps on their face, coloration.
Ain't my thing, but
No. Then we have the Shirans. I think that's
a insectoid-like race that were previously a hive mind, but apparently have now basically managed to break away and become their own race.
Yeah, now they were actually an interesting race reading into about the hive mind, stuff like that. I enjoyed their write-up on that one.
I mean, yeah, and how everyone's still kind of freaked out because a moment ago you guys were like space locusts that were wiping out.
Yeah, now you've get.
You're like, no, we're not Tyranids anymore. We're nice now,
Yeah, it's all peace, love, and freedom, man.
Yeah, we're totally not going to assimilate all of you.
We come in peace.
Yeah.
Then you have the Vesk.
Basically, almost a warlike, honor-bound race that's aggressive, violent, big, reptilian.
I mean, it's your brutish race. You have it in every sci-fi setting. I mean,
yeah,
look at Mass Effect's Krogans.
Yeah, there you go. They have a bit of a Krogan in them, and a tentative piece that's like, we're at peace for now until we get bored.
Yeah. So those are, and then we have the Saki.
I still don't know how to. Is that how you pronounce it?
I don't know.
Just show it to him because I don't know how the heck you pronounce that.
I don't know how to pronounce any of these things, man. I'm just winging this.
As you say Saki, I just keep thinking Yojimbo and go for the rats, the rabbit samurai.
I just see little rats and little cups of sake.
They're space rats. They're small. They have some interesting features. I have to admit, I like them better than halflings and gnomes. I've never been a fan of small races, but these guys are actually interesting comparatively.
I don't know.
And kind of badasses. Some of their racial abilities are really cool.
We've had so many, I guess, humanizing forms of mice you know.
Yeah, we're not going to get into mouse guard. It's a big thing.
It's almost overdone. So that's why I was sort of disappointed in this one, because I was like, really, a mouse race? Come on, people.
Ah, man, they had to throw something in.
It's not original.
Hey, man, furries need something. All right? You can't keep ignoring that community. They are a part of the gaming community, and they deserve to be heard.
I think we've done a pretty good job.
Someone's got to stand up for the furries. It won't be me. Screw you guys. But
but that's those races. I'm going to go ahead and jump back to
our dwarves here,
so we can show the races that were included from Galarian. So first of all, we have.
You'll get there.
Yeah, eventually. Okay, so we have the dwarves. Now the space dwarves look fucking awesome, man.
Which is why I'm amazed, because like half the people I know were looking for the space dwarves. There's whole games around just being a space dwarf.
Space dwarves, man. No, I love it, space dwarves.
Well, I mean, come on. Let's give it. Dwarven communities lean towards space travel. The cramped spaces and dark confines of a frigate would be very comfortable for dwarves. Exploring planets and mining for resources, you just see the dwarven community adapting to that lifestyle easily.
Now, a lot of them do have that inborn, though, desire for the mountains in Galaran, because I mean that's where they're created, it's where they're pulled from, and so it's that innate.
I'll give it that.
So and they do write that into the story. So.
And of course you got your elves,
because
there's elves. Always going to be elves.
Space elves. Now, I mean, you want to talk about the sexy race. The elven armor looks like it's designed to be aesthetically hot. Yeah. Now you have gnomes. Now, gnomes had
finally in a setting that you could really see them shine.
They had a good write-up on the gnomes. I don't know. Did you read the write-up?
I just said I hate small races. Halflings and gnomes.
So, basically, there was this bleaching going on, which is like some kind of disease where it was taking the color out and all this. So you actually have two separate groups of them. You have the Feychild, which are the original, that are not part of the bleached, and then you have the bleached, which have this discoloration and all this stuff. So they actually have this history written into them that's really neat.
I actually assumed they would shine. I mean, they've always kind of been a technological race in a non-technological world, so I could see them fitting into the space culture pretty good.
Because I mean, they say how exactly the bleaching adaptation occurred, whether it was intentional or experimental genetic solution to ancient gnome disease, a freak mutation, some blessing, or something else entirely has sadly been lost to the gap. Which the gap, we'll get into that in a bit when we get into the story.
Yeah,
but. Bleaching gnomes continue to pass their immunity to their children and those of mixed relationships, finding a new subrace, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so interesting storyline. And all of these they did write up like a little bit of what happened.
I'm waiting for the monster book to come out so we can learn more about the space orcs. Because they give you a little bit under the half-orc, but come on, dude. You know you're wondering about what they're going to do with their space orcs.
Yeah.
Because orcs are so expansionist, you just know they're going to be like the Vex, another problem for all the other races.
So yeah, you have your half-orcs, and we mentioned the half-elves.
No, but I mean, they know. You know what to expect from half-elves.
Yeah, you had half-elves, half-orcs, halflings. And that's
I wouldn't have missed the halflings.
And that's what they brought over from Pathfinder. So
they're literally called Legacy because they're basically brought from Galarians to be more specific.
Original main races of Galarian. So that is races. Now we go into classes a bit. Now classes are interestingly done.
There's a lot of choices. Basically, each class is almost a template with a lot of different choices you can make within that class, usually specializations, that can make a class play way differently. You almost can't look at a class and go, this class is melee, this class is rogue, because it's like, no, there's probably a build under that class that can change it to a hacker, change it to a stealth build. And then when you throw in the themes, you really get a lot of variation.
Now, they did do key attributes on them. So you have one key attribute for each class. Versus some sort of relying on 2 or even 3. They tried to keep it all down to one attribute being the main thing. Now, I did notice some instances where a second attribute is sort of touched on.
There's a couple that pull too.
But like your resolve and a lot of other of your features for your character are based off of whether or not what its level of its key attribute is.
Which works well because they have a attribute system that is not the rolling system. It's a point-based system. You essentially start with a set score, and then you have a certain amount of points to distribute. It leans toward lower attributes, but as you level, they grow quickly. If you actually saw it, you get quite a few attribute boosts as you go up.
Well, you get one every 5 levels.
It isn't 1 point. I thought it was like...
I don't know how many points it was every 5 levels. I didn't actually see where that was. But I saw every 5 levels instead of every 4 levels where you get 2.
You get more than you get any other. Yeah, you get like 2 or more. I remember it being a pretty hefty build. I think you get a +2 to 2 attributes.
Maybe.
So it's got a pretty hefty stat grow as you level, but you're not going to see high stats at the beginning, which isn't a bad thing.
And once again, I mean, very equipment dependent.
I'd actually like not rolling. You know, I hate rolling stats, so I don't love any system that doesn't roll.
It gave you the options. It says you can either do straight 10s and then spread out 10 points across the board, however you like. And there's no increment of, well, once you get to this point, it's 2 points.
Just straight 10 points.
10 points, 1-to-1 ratio from all the way up to 18. And then you have your you have the rolling system. Now you do have 4d6 as their rolling system.
But that's now the subsystem and not the recommended. And honestly, like I said, I'm a point buy guy.
I would go with the point buy on this for sure. But
I've just seen rolls go so out of whack.
I used to be a hardcore roll person until I ran into you guys and your friends group. That when I got into that group, man, our friends can't roll for shit.
Yeah, like even our current DM we have for our evening game has been horrified by how much our rolls for stats, even with his very generous system, was just wildly bad. He was just like, I've never seen a group have this massive a gap in the way rolls come out. Because we usually get one person that rolls insane and everyone else rolls absolute utter trash.
So point buy systems are great. Let's just say that.
We broke you, huh?
So anyway, back to classes where we were. We have Envoy, which is the first class that is mentioned. What did you think about the Envoy?
Man, at first, again, this is what I love about the system, is I said, oh, here's the social class. And then when I got into the options, I said, oh, hell no, it can do a lot more than that. It's a cool class. It leans toward charisma, but you cannot pigeonhole it. Your build can make you a hacker, a smuggler. I mean, heck, there's a heavy combat build depending on what options you choose. Yeah. But its core is charisma. But each class has a lot of options you pick, so it's almost hard to pigeonhole a class.
Yeah, but I do like that the classes definitely have skill-based builds, a lot of them, as well as, offensive builds. And
this one leans towards skill. This is the Envoy. Envoy has a lot of skill expertise and special abilities based on what skills you specialize in.
Yeah.
It's just since it can be any skill.
Like with this... even though Pathfinder has the skill-based builds, they just don't wash out usually.
They underperform.
Very well. Yeah.
I mean, some of the coolest classes in the core Pathfinder and Investigator and Occultist, some of those, but in the end, skill builds tend to just
But these look like they're going to do well. Now, we still haven't had a actual game session, so we won't know the actual mechanics and how well they work out until we actually play a game. But
it looks good.
It looks good. So then we have next. Now this is another cool aspect they did. So for each one of the classes, they do like 4 themed icon builds, like an ambassador build, military officer, negotiator, scoundrel. These are all things you can do with the Envoy class.
Just the Envoy.
You could be from an ambassador to a scoundrel, a negotiator or a military officer.
Because with the theme, you add new abilities. The theme plus class build means, like I said, look at that. These are 4 things you'd expect to be different classes.
Yeah.
And only 2 of those are purely social.
Yeah.
Like the other 2 are freaking, like this one's an ace pilot. So.
Yeah, so that's, like I said, that's what we're talking about with the classes being so customizable with the theme and the archetypes.
Oh god, when I forgot about archetypes, that adds a whole nother level of customization.
And we'll get into that as we get a little further into the book. But then you have the mechanic. Now, this is actually a cool class, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I was enjoying reading about
If you were a tech guy, I will admit the mechanics custom. Basically, the mechanic has you built a construct. And it's either like an actual flying pet, it's your
drones.
Yeah, it's your drone, and it's pretty dang cool. Or it could be a freaking, you built it into your brain, and it's basically a freaking backup computer. Both of those versions are awesome.
Yeah.
And lead to some really interesting builds because, again, now you throw in themes.
Yeah, with the themes, you got the combat technician, which is your mercenary theme, your enhanced commando, which is a bounty hunter theme, saboteur, and starship engineer.
And I mean, I gotta admit that out of all the classes I saw that felt unique, this class, that dang drone is just so freaking cool. It is really cool. And I'd always go for the drone.
Well, the enhanced commando, though, is sort of cool, too, where it's all augmented body enhancements and...
I know, but man, I can't help it, dude. The friggin' drone, just stands out as being like, oh crap, I haven't seen a game that, like, other than Shadowrun, it's let you really get a cool drone. But this drone looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah. So next we have the Mystic.
This fills basically every magical role. Depending on how you customize it, this is everything from a psychic to a freaking cleric.
Yeah, now this is a wisdom-based character. So.
But, I mean, he's got a build specifically for mind effects and psychic abilities. He's got a build for I worship an entity, especially when you combine a theme of religion. So it's all of your mystic classes put in one.
But, yeah. Let's see. And for our... We have the Crusader Chaplain, the Empath, Star Shaman, and the Xeno Druid. All really... Now, this doesn't appear to be as big of a variation, though, as some of the
I don't know, dude. I looked at the Shaman, man. Well, I mean, yeah, they're all mystic, but they play really different. Very different from each other.
They do. They do. The Crusader Chaplain is sort of a neat combo character with that, offensive and mystic.
Yeah, grab the mercenary theme. It's basically a mercenary theme combo that your mystic's in there kicking butt, taking names, and throwing out some magic.
But really neat. Operative.
A roguish type class, but
this is your dexterity prime builds.
Everything from sniper to hacker, though, because again, they vary up so much. So you might just be a hacker.
Yeah, I mean, they got daredevils, hacker, thief, spy, explorer. You got a lot of different things. So, hacker is one of their themed builds. Investigator is another themed build. Thief and Trailblazer. Now, Investigator, I didn't even think about Investigator when I read that class. But now that I think about it after seeing it here, this is what I liked about them having these, is it sort of opens up. Oh, yeah, I
didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Well, dude, like, you see a version of the hacker on their dang near every theme. That's why I was wow. You could play hackers every time you play Starfinder, and I think you could go 6 characters in before you repeat yourself. Yeah. I think you could literally go through almost every class as a hacker before you finally go, all right, I guess I got to play the same hacker concept.
But... then we have the Solarian. This is your another charisma-based build.
Which is odd, because it's really a It's your Star Knight / Jedi. I mean, this is I can summon a star weapon or star armor.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's cool thematically. You basically have powers based on the void of space and the light of stars. And basically Soul Knife for those veterans who remember the Soul Knife archetype from D&D and other games. I mean, basically you're a mystical space knight with like combat enhanced powers.
And so they have like the champion build, cosmic mercenary, luminous explorer, and outcast. So interesting build concepts there from that. And then of course you have the soldier build. Now,
this is the only one that finally kind of seems to be like, okay, this is for combat. Unless you mix in a different theme, and then it gets once again.
Yeah.
Like you can choose to specialize in stuff, but it is way more combat than not.
So you got like bodyguard, close combatant, so you can do like a melee build, sniper, and spell soldier. So they do mix in some mystic.
It's like I said, hard to pigeonhole a class, man.
Because you take the soldier and mix it with like the priest theme. And there you go, so definitely not pigeonholing any class, that's for sure. Technomancer, now this is one of my favorites.
That is a cool class. Let's go magic and tech. They call it hybrid in this setting. They call it hybrid technology.
It's an intelligence build, which is my favorite types of builds. I like high intelligence characters. But
it lives up to it. I mean, this is
the mixture of magic and tech, man, just to be able to fuse spells and tech is just awesome.
And the way they execute it is pretty cool. And once again, another hacker option. Like I said, you can literally have 4 hackers meet, and they're just completely different methods of doing it.
Yeah. Now they did Battle Mage, Corporate Tech Mage.
That sounds like a copyright infringement.
Research Scientist, and the
Thaumaturge.
So, very, once again, now this one does tend to have a theme that's hard to break, but you definitely still doable.
Oh, no, like I've seen
the whole concept of the class is the mixture of magic and tech, and it's hard to get outside of that.
Pretty balanced, too. I thought it would be overpowered, but oddly enough, the hybrid tech doesn't get as crazy as you think it would.
And then you have the archetypes, which you heard us mention.
Only 2 so far.
And so you want to sort of explain how these work?
Basically, an archetype works like the archetypes from Pathfinder. What it is that you pick an archetype and certain class features from your class get swapped out for the archetype abilities instead. The cool part is that no archetype ties to any particular class, so you can put any archetype on any class build. This reminds me of, like I said, Ultra Modern in that they don't make any theme or any particular archetype class specific, which means you can make any combination. Currently, the 2 archetypes are Phrenic, and what's the other one? Starfinder Forerunner, which Starfinder is pretty much the Pathfinder equivalent of the space version.
When do you do the archetypes?
It starts as early as 2nd level. It's changing out abilities. But you usually pick it at character creation. Once you pick it, you're stuck in it. You got to do the swap out every time.
Okay.
But once you do it, you'll start changing out class features for either the Phrenic right now or the Starfinder. Starfinder is going to give you explorative options in case you felt like you weren't quite enough of an explorer with your theme and archetype, or if you wanted to just try to be 3 things at once. The Phrenic basically makes you psychic.
All right, and then we got the skills section, which
skills didn't change much.
Yeah.
In fact, they condensed a few down. Culture fills in a lot of the knowledge skills. This is really important too because look how small that skill list is.
Yeah.
It's a much shorter skill list, which makes the skill build. That's why the skill builds work. Because my God, because the skill list is shorter and more comprehensive for each skill, if you're specialized in one skill, that's going to cover a lot that you could do with that skill.
Yeah. So the skills, you got acrobatics, athletics, bluff, computers, culture, diplomacy, disguise, engineering, intimidate, life science, medicine, mysticism, perception, physical sciences, piloting, profession, sense motive, sleight of hand, stealth, and survival.
I'll go ahead and give you a little pointer from your boy Q to you to give you a little heads up. Culture and physical sciences are very potent ones to specialize in for a lot of situations. Those are some seriously rolled skills from what I've seen. We haven't played yet, but from what I've looked at, you roll culture or physical sciences a lot. And so classes that focus on those skills are going to be really helpful.
Cool. Did you see any kind of crafting skill or anything like that? I did not see one when I looked.
I think physical science and engineering cover a lot of that. The mechanic class gets a lot of that going. And he uses physical sciences, I believe, for a lot of it.
Now, I know you have profession, which can be a bunch of different things as well. And, of course, you can use that to earn money and stuff, so when downtime.
Which is important in a game where equipment is the source of your main power. You're going to want to... This is going to definitely be a for-profit game. People are going to be trying to rake in that cash.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's got that sci-fi elements. It's got the corporations, stuff like that. So, yeah, money is an essential thing, especially when, so much stuff is equipment-based. You're looking at the equipment. I mean, the equipment has some hefty price tags on it, man.
But it pays out.
And then we go into feats. Now, feats were a bit different, but...
with feats, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to see all the feats you're used to seeing. You better go read them. The feats function differently. Power attack functions differently. Weapon focus. All of the feats are changed to fit in better with the setting. So while the feats have the same names, they have different functions. Generally, they're a bit, I don't know, there's an odd efficiency to them that I think is kind of cool. Power attack is made a little bit simpler. How it functions is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and everything has their prerequisites. Now, one of the big things is because of the way that the classes are built, you don't seem as pigeonholed on some of the requirements, though. Like that base BAB stuff, and where it was basically you had to be a fighter or you weren't going to be able to get this,
No, they seem to make the feats mostly available to nearly everyone. Now, there's a couple that require BAB or 1, so that you may not be able to get it at first level, but it doesn't show up as much as it does in the other games.
I mean,
and nothing class specific. I don't see anything that just goes...
No, nothing class specific that I saw. Mostly it's based off of attributes. And
overall
just
character level.
And having previous skill ranks or previous feats. So, not bad. Let's see. Next, we have the equipment, which there's not a lot to say about the equipment. I mean, they have a good bit of tables here.
They give
you a lot of images to work with on the equipment.
There's a massive library of equipment. I gotta give them credit. They did not want you to run out of stuff to buy. Equipment power levels, though, they give you a actual level suggestion. This is not a prerequisite. This is just for the GM to go, all right, you need to be 3rd level before this becomes a constant in your campaign. I'm going to tell you from one GM to another, you better follow it. The damage output is no joke. ACs go from, you know how in Pathfinder ACs from 1 to 9 on base armor? In this game, ACs go from 1 to friggin' 22.
Which, I mean, that's pretty easy to regulate out of availability for shops. The big thing you got to worry about is putting them on NPCs. Don't try to over-equip your NPCs as a GM to challenge a group. You better learn how to use strategy and statistics to challenge your group.
Or your group is going to get very powerful, because I assure you, someone in that group is going to be able to even put it together if you break it, because you need to. That's a very important thing in the sci-fi setting. You're going to have a craftsman.
Yeah, and you have the technician and stuff who has a lot of...
Who's really, really good at it. And assuming that you're already going to be fighting to keep them low enough on resources, they don't just build a phase cannon, But let alone you go and give I want this boss to be tough. I'm going to give him a +20 armor set.
Yeah.
Well, guess what happens at the end of that fight? You got a player that you can't hit anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean...
Or a sword that does 8d6.
Utilize feats, utilize skills, utilize, stuff like that to make things challenging for your players. Do not do... I mean, you can do it in Pathfinder, and it's not too horrible,
But Starfinder, if you over-equip your enemies, your power level's going to get up there, because this equipment goes from weapons that do a D4 to weapons that do 10d6. And I mean per shot.
Yeah.
So you don't want to lose sight of that and get too happy and go like, look at my mercenary, he's loaded down with disintegrator rifles.
Well, yeah, like a level 20, what they suggest for level 20.
Oh my god, that's higher than I thought.
Dimensional slice longsword, 14d8.
Yep.
So.
By the way, no limits on that. It's just every time I hit you, I do 14d8 damage.
Yeah. Which, I mean, they're going to have other equipment to counter that, armor and so forth. But
we're just basically giving just a little advisory of note that when you get your party on them, you need to tell them, I don't want you. I would make the level requirement almost a hard thing. I'd probably make it a hard rule.
I try not to make things a hard rule like that. I mean, you are the merchants. You can make availability and just go. That's not available.
Yeah.
Like
almost like an MMO. Sorry, this zone only goes up to level 5 weapons.
Yeah. So, and then even once you get into these levels, you don't want to flood them with all these options either. You want to probably come in and go, hey, you have this contact, and he's just like, I got this item in. What do you think? Is it something you'd be interested in?
Remember Resident Evil 4? The guy's got the jacket. You want one of these? It's just got the awesome stuff.
But I sort of get this Babylon 5, you're a fucking shadow merchant type.
Like, dude, well, heck, would you want that sword on you? Half this stuff should be hard to get. Like, hey, man, I want a freaking, phase sword. He's like, there's no way they're going to let one of those on. Do you know what that does?
Yeah, I mean, you even may want to put, hell, you may even have government restrictions on some of these items.
Sorry, sir, that's a Class C weapon. We don't let that on it. Why? Because it cuts through starships. You know what happens when you cut a hole in a starship? When you roll a 1? We all get sucked into space.
No, they go into tactical rules as well, which is, of course, your placement, flanking, stuff like that.
They flesh out their tactics a lot better than Pathfinder as far as, they really try to get you to know the system.
Yeah.
I have to admit that they seem to have taken what was added in the Pathfinder optional books and really tried to make the combat fleshed out and tactical. There's covering fire rules, there's suppressing fire rules, a lot about different cover and directions.
Yeah, well, when you get into automatic weapons and stuff like that, you gotta have those extra tactical, styles of you have the covering fire and stuff like that. You got into, Pathfinder does touch on guns and stuff per se, but not to the level that's really, and even them, adding the guns in the Pathfinder gets pretty messed up.
And honestly, they're really kind of underwhelming. It's one of those famous swords do better than guns.
Well, it depends on the generation, because you have advancements.
Oh yeah, if you go past the gunman class and get into the advanced,
the high advanced, yeah.
For the most part, the rules for combat senses and environments are what you're used to from Pathfinder. Space, they don't actually get overly crazy with making being caught in space deadly. They don't do cold damage. It's really just pressure and suffocation.
I was thinking there were some senses differences when I looked.
Most of it's just a big redefinition. They go into precise and imprecise senses, but people who play Pathfinder, this is the difference between blind sight and blind sense.
Yeah.
One says, I got an idea you're there, and the other is, I can friggin' read, the bumps on your face. Most of it was just, to me, a clarification.
Yeah.
In my opinion. It seemed to just clarify it. If you played Pathfinder, I don't think the senses, tactics, or even the environmental rules are going to be something that you're going to have to refamiliarize yourself with.
Yeah. And, of course, the area of effects are pretty much the same. Your cones, your 20-foot radius and all that. But, they do have it blocked out for you on the chart. So
Pretty sure in the future they'll sell those templates where you can lay it on your map.
I've actually seen the templates already, for
cool.
Pathfinder and stuff, where it is a transparent thing that you can lay on your map.
You need to get some of that. How much does...
I actually think I put them on a wish list somewhere, so I could remember, and then I forgot about them. Then they go into the Starships, which we'll get more into the tech, I think, on another episode. Basically, though, the Starships is something completely different.
The vehicle rules are a big part of this. I'll say this, if you played the Star Wars D20 and some of the other stuff, you'll be familiar with these rules. If they call them chase rules, some of you out there will immediately recognize that. Yes. That's my answer is yes. It's the chase rules that have shown up before in other D20 products.
I think what we'll do is we'll get sort of into that after we've played a session.
And we need to run a few Starship battles before we can talk on that. The magic is very recognizable. And oddly enough, unlike the feats, the magic works like you're used to these spells working.
Yeah, they reduced the number of spells quite a bit, I think, and the potency.
They wanted tech to outgun magic, it's pretty clear, and they did a good job. The magic doesn't just crap on the tech. You don't go, oh man, I'd rather be throwing fireballs. It's still fun to throw fireballs, but there's a weapon out there that'll get the job done too.
Yeah.
So don't worry about magic overpowering your setting. It fits in without being too much.
Yeah.
And it only goes up to 6th level right now.
Yeah.
At least the players can only get up to 6th level.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen anywhere where NPCs have any kind of...
Well, the monster book's not out yet.
True.
I mean, there's already some powerful undead factions out there that lead me to believe that you're going to see some serious spells.
Game mastering, this is something, as a game master, you're just going to look over...
Use a CR, the same experience style you're used to.
Your damage from falling objects, a lot of that stuff is still the same, just bleeding over from Pathfinder. So, honestly, if you played Pathfinder and you hadn't figured out how to GM yet, then...
Well, that's a whole other video to tell you how to do it. We might do a baby steps for GMing video. Like, we're going to walk you through it.
Then you have your setting, which honestly was surprisingly not as big of a section as I thought it was going to be.
It's a bare bones.
It's still a relatively large section in comparison to... But I'm used to setting books.
Let me do a devil's advocate here. The biggest problem with a space setting is you've got a much huger setting than a planet. In one planet. So it's bare bones. It's got to be bare bones. You can't cover several star systems.
Yeah, I mean, you have 70 pages of setting for a solar system.
It's a little bare bones, but, let's be honest. They're going to put the book out later. They're going to probably start putting them out.
I'm sure.
It's enough to start, but you're going to have to flesh it out.
It also does piggyback off of Pathfinder setting a little bit. In comparison to talking about the gap, the gap is the big setting.
Now, I don't want to run too long, but basically the gap is there's a massive part of history that basically is just gone.
Yeah, and what's the planet?
Galarian is gone.
Galarian has disappeared.
Now, it's an amazing writing tool because basically what you think would happen is the first thing the priests did is they asked the gods. And the gods pretty much said, Galarian still exists, but you can't go there, and that's all we're going to tell you.
Yeah.
Which is almost an in-canon way of Paizo going, we want Galarians to stay separate from Starfinders, and the gods pretty much said, no, you stay over here, we're going to do this over here.
But each one of the planets has a 2-page write-up, and 2/3 of those pages is a picture. So,
really, they got a 1 page. If you could put all of this on 1 page and still have room for a picture.
So,
and my God, you're right. Every single one of them has got a massive. Oh wow. I mean, hey, no, screw it. No, Paizo, come on, man.
Yeah.
Really, that's a whole page of artwork on each one. I did not even notice that. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of skimmed that section, and now I know why, because there's not much more to it than skimming.
So this is what I was saying. The setting write-up was really slim.
The campaign book needs to be a separate book. I'll forgive them.
Yeah.
But The setting looks interesting. I like the Eox. I kind of like this entire undead space community. That's kind of, I'm super sorry. I love Necrons from freaking Warhammer. So I immediately was like, oh yeah, the undead are here and they're an empire.
Well, I mean, you're also a big Necromancer.
Hell yeah, yeah. I will admit I was going to try to find a way to sneak a space Necromancer into the playtest for Nightmare Fuel.
Oh. But yeah, so that's, let's see, I guess the one last section
the gods
we'll
are there.
about
they've got some new gods. They've got some gods to remember.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. I mean, there's about 5 or 6 recognizable gods. Amode, Desna, and Abadar are there.
Well, no, there's a lot more than 5 or 6.
Well, some of them got changed up a bit.
Some of them are minor gods.
Like the Devourer now is a black hole god, but he's essentially the Devourer from Galarians. Asmodeus is still there.
Yeah, you got Amode.
She's a major one. There's a whole faction based on her. Her and Abadar and Desna have entire factions based on this. And Sarenrae has her own faction. I like Sarenrae, ain't gonna lie, dude. Sarenrae's one of my favorites. I'm glad she made it. But there's a couple of new ones.
Then you have your other gods.
Of course, Lamashtu. You can never get rid of her. Yeah. She's always there.
Of course, you mentioned Asmodeus.
Weird Black Butterfly, Shadow of Desna god. That's kind of interesting. She's kind of the space in between the stars. So they have like a Shadow Desna.
But...
Oh, the Aslanti come back as a faction. Apparently, that's where the hell they went. The Aslanti, if you follow Galarians, is this ancient, really powerful human race that disappeared from Galarians. It turns out they're in space. They apparently, left the planet and they're a space faction. I thought that was cool. Well, no, the idea they told the story of, where are the Aslanti? Man, they left that rock. They're like, screw this, the gods won't let us make any tech.
No, that's a good bit Warhammer-ish.
That is not the most Warhammer-ish picture. It's
not the most Warhammer-ish, but...
The Knights of Galarian are copyright-ish. They literally go with the chainsword and pistol combo. But
anything about the conversion you want to throw out there?
Dude, what do you want me to start a rant? It doesn't. It doesn't convert.
Just to wrap this up.
It doesn't convert. As much as I like this book, we did say we were going to do this. Mm-hmm. If you're an Iron Gods fan, this is not an expansion of Iron Gods. This is not more Iron Gods. This is its own setting. Story-wise, this is an expansion. You'll see the same tech, the same races, but the rules don't gel as well. Starfinder should be played as its own setting.
Yeah.
If you want to do Pathfinder in space, do Iron Gods. If you want to do a unique version of Pathfinder in space with its own rules and really cool classes and its own tech, then no, get Starfinder. But don't try to expand your Iron Guards into Starfinder, or else you're going to be doing a lot of conversions that are going to be a bit challenging.
Yeah, they give a brief explanation on conversions, very minimalistic, and mostly it just says, hey, you should bug your GM about this and get him to do it.
But then they go back and go, these don't balance.
Yeah.
Versus, these are way more powerful than the core Pathfinder class. And they are. Barring the full spellcasters, which unfortunately are too powerful because high-level magic does not fit in the Starfinder, they say, these other classes are going to not scale damage-wise. Plus, their feats change.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of your feats are going to disappear or change dramatically. I suggest if you want to play Pathfinder in space, just Pathfinder in space, use Iron Gods. If you want a new set of rules that to me is an awesome fantasy sci-fi space setting, Starfinder's worth it.
Which, I mean, you can use Iron Gods and just use the setting that's in here as some background.
Actually, he's right. It's great for you to get more material to expand it, but you're going to want to choose what you don't fuse the rules. Pick one or the other.
Yeah.
It'll be less than a headache.
This has cool enough classes that I think you don't need to bring in those other classes as of right now. The only reason I could see you wanting to bring in Pathfinder classes if you wanted to do sort of an out-of-time type of campaign.
If I were running a campaign where I wanted to take people from Galarians and have them get displaced into it, then I would stick with Pathfinder rules. But otherwise, I'd rather play this as its own. It's cool enough that I don't want to mix it with Galarian. It stands on its own.
Yeah. So if you like what we had to say, please be sure to like, subscribe. If you don't agree with what we said about the book, throw a comment.
Like and subscribe.
And still like and subscribe. Support your local hobby shop. We picked ours up from our local favorite Vans Comics here. And, yeah, hope you enjoyed this. You got any last things to say, Q?
I mean, same thing, man. Go to your local hobby shop. Go buy the official copies and stuff. I paid for my PDF. I have the PDF, but I bought it.
Yeah.
You know, because we want people to keep trying things out. So continue to support these endeavors so we get more material and interesting things.
Yeah. And I really like the book.
To me, it's a unique setting. I like it. I'm definitely intending to play it.
All right, so check it out. Starfinder, core rulebook, out now, and more books to come. So, and we'll try to get you reviews of them and talk about them as they come out as well. So stay tuned. Bye bye.